Welcome, everybody, to episode 30 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Pods. This is my co-host, Mark Simpson.
Good to be here. Actually, nice sunny day today for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't need my umbrella. I took it out of my bag on the way in.
Yep.
So, very good with that. Had the privilege of doing a career day. I know it's bumping up where we normally start on things, but it was just so enthusiastic what I was able to help put together and bringing in the likes of you and the Galuzos. It was really a highlight of my week because that night, same night your daughter got inducted to
National
Honor Society, bumped into the woman who ran the program with me.
Right.
Went to high school with Maria.
Okay.
Old friend. One of my daughter's favorite teachers. I didn't know any of this, you know. I'm the guy who finds out last for everything, but she said the response was just amazing. You know, over 110 kids participated. But for me, the highlight was at the end when we were doing the panel, and there were about 20 or 30 teachers that had come to check out what was going on.
Right.
That's the part that was really cool for me. What about you?
So, you know, my daughter was forced to go or whatnot, and you know, she sat through it, blah, blah, blah. So as a father, to be able to participate and do that stuff was excellent. Anyway, you know, communication's a little different, so she sends me a text message. She goes, Dad, some of my friends thought you were really impressive. It's like, okay. So that made it all, you know, it wasn't about that, but, you know, having her involved and being like, hey, look, this is how we do things. And
so she scurried by through my room first, and we eye contact. I'm like, hey, Sam. She said hello, and I said, your dad's in the auditorium. My daughter didn't come. I was extremely disappointed. I let her know I was disappointed. You never told me where it was.
But I did see her signing the national anthem, or the
She did. Yeah. She did. So it was kind of like one of those, Dad, I tried to get in, but I couldn't get signed up. I'm like, yeah, you're full of crap. Anyway, the whole purpose of being here is to help a younger generation of men and women salespeople try to cut some of the years off the amount of time it took me, the journey. Cut off some of the years of the journey, give them some tips, give them some ideas, try to help them. And again, tying into what we did, I really felt like we kind of took our podcast on the road and did it in front of a large audience.
Which is only a matter of time.
Which is only a matter of time, absolutely. We always start I know we started with something else, but sports moment of the weekend. Well, how many you got?
So I got a couple. So I'll tell you, it's a little interesting. This is a sales podcast, right? So let's talk about the draft.
All right.
So if you saw everything, look, I don't really know talent from, you know, A or B, but you thought Shador was going to be a top pick. And then you see him fall, and then all the stories start to come out. And, you know, he's got the legendary. Look, you don't want the kid to be embarrassed or anything like that, but then you see Cam Ward. Cam Ward's there, very understated, all about football, #1 pick, and you see everything comes out now. The GMs are like, he was oversold. Oversold. That's in essence what happened.
To an average quarterback.
But all the stuff that came along with it is kind of what had his fall occur. And you see Cam Ward is like, hey, I just want to be about football. Boom, #1 pick.
You know what's so funny about what you said was some coach, defensive coach for Atlanta.
Oh.
His son.
He's the former Jet head coach.
Former Jet head coach. Saw his dad's laptop open, called Shador.
Stuff like that, you don't want any of that.
Punked him. And I was like, So Giants had a great draft. Very pleased with what my Giants did. Mets rolling along until yesterday.
Yesterday was ugly, right? And then the Knicks, Knicks had a great. They
got a call. They don't always get a call. They got a call.
The shots that Karl Anthony Towns hit at the end was fantastic.
Huge. All right, so we had a really good sports weekend. Again, tying into things that we did last week, Chapter 13. Chapter 13 is, what does your leave behind message sound like? And when Ty used to work in the office with me, I really started to listen to what he was doing to what I was doing and realize you could always have someone else hear what you're saying to see if it sounds good. You could always have, now it's AI, could look at your email to make sure it sounds good.
Right.
Your text message, again, I don't know how AI helps in a text message, but again, your leave behind message needs to be good. And I have found that for myself, my leave behinds are very consistent. They're very short. They're very direct. They're to the point.
Right.
What about yourself?
Well, let me just jump on that first. So your leave behind is kind of, because having a chance now that we've done a couple things together, your leave behind isn't the text message, it's the presence.
Right.
And I think that's a real valuable thing. And I think, and our guests too, when you have like this way about you that people make you memorable for, you know, and usually it's a positive situation. It's like, I think your leave behind is really that energy and that presence you bring, and more so than a piece of paper or anything else.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I went to that park conference in Philly, a relocation conference about 3 weeks ago, and I set up a few one-on-ones. And I had one on Friday when I was at the Chevy dealer, and I had to take my computer outside and do this one-on-one. And by the time I got done with this call, this woman was like, I can't wait to come to New York, can't wait to be a guest on your podcast, you're so interesting. You know, she was just, we had a great call, but for her it was very memorable, and she wants to come here and be on the podcast.
And the key is you kind of have like like we do here, a normal conversation, break down the barriers, make it so you don't feel awkward, just like any networking event.
So the action statement in the leave behind is, it asks, is your leave behind effective? So for me, it is, but for so many people, and I've seen so many people, so I'm not just talking out my ass. I've seen my teammates for the past 13 years with the things that they email customers, you know, short stories, novels, some science fiction, and, you know, mine's, you know, 3 lines and we're done.
Right. Yeah, look, and I don't mind different stuff. You know, and when it's creative, okay, sometimes you just delete, it doesn't matter. But sometimes you're like, oh, that's cool. And I respect the effort.
Absolutely. Networking tip of the week.
I mean, we've covered this a bunch. So I have a trade show coming up in Dallas next, you know, and it's kind of outside my comfort zone. It's not really my specific space. So it's now May next week. So this is 7 weeks out. So the trade show for me, networking starts today. Setting up the events, setting up the planning, all that occurs before you go there to have an effective trade show. So advanced planning would be my networking tip of the week.
Mine is, and it's a takeoff of what we just talked about in the book, everything, everything, everything. Joe Beauchamp, guest on our show.
Yep.
I learned that in our men's group from him. If you're doing it here, you're going to be doing it here, you're going to be doing it here. And it says right here, voicemail, email, text. Everything, be consistent.
Is he consistent branding message?
Yeah. But it didn't come from a marketing place that he taught this to me. It came from a, strengthening the man's mind and stuff. So we'll jump to trade show tips of the weeks, being that you're going to when's yours?
So it is in the last week of June, right during graduation week.
Okay, so my next show is before yours. I'm going to Relo-Palooza. Now the ironic
Sounds like a concert.
Ironic part is that I just listened to the Audible Lollapalooza.
Yep.
Great book. And at the end, they said, we created a word that is memorable and everybody uses it. As I'm signing up for this event called Relo-Palooza. Just crazy. So it's a relocation. But I'm doing it because it's from the Richmond, Virginia group and the Charlotte group. They're all coming together in Raleigh, and they're doing one big show. So I actually called for reinforcements, and I got my buddy Rudy coming out to do the show with me.
Nice.
It's May 14th, 15th, and 16th. Pretty excited in doing that. So for me, my trade show tip is come in numbers. Sometimes it's important to not just be the lone wolf, not be the road warrior by yourself. Ask for help.
What's your view when you have the trade show? So in the security space, they have like the big trade shows. And sometimes people have like giveaways. Sometimes they have drinks. Do you do what you
tchotchkes? So my favorite tchotchke is the pod storage container squeezy. Okay. Something I can actually throw at them.
Do you remember in South Carolina they had the Lego?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like something playful, not something that's going to be at the bottom of the bag and end up in the garbage.
And so again, in the security space, they used to hire models.
That was always a good way to go.
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of faded out a little bit now, but I don't know if there's going to be a comeback now. But
I would always say yes to a model.
That's what they did. I mean, in Vegas, the ISC show, some of the biggest companies you'd have, you don't really work at the company, right? Yeah.
Wish you did.
Yeah.
One year I was at PLRM. That might ring a bell too. PLRM. I don't know, insurance space. Anyway, we did a show in Boston, and the special guest was Tim Tebow.
Oh, okay.
And this was the height of
Tebow mania.
He just graduated,
Yeah.
and I remember like a little boy running and getting online and getting a picture with him.
Yep.
That's cool. All right, listen, we're going to head into tequila time, and when we're done, we're going to bring out our guest, Tom Morrissey.
Yep, very special guest. Very excited, happy to have Tom here. I think it's a very interesting story, and quite frankly, I don't know how the guy has the time to do all the stuff he does, but I guess we'll
He
dig into
seems
that.
to be everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
I'm surprised him and Galuzzo aren't attached on the hip. I got to have Galuzzo come back. He'll be our first repeat guest on the show because it's over a year now since his appearance. Galuzzo is the reason for the name of the book, How to Become a Sales Warrior. He actually helped create the name, so he's a guy that I'll enjoy having back. So we'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll have our guest Tom on. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 30 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Potts, co-host, Mark Simpson. Sorry.
That's okay.
And your guest today?
Tom Morrissey. Very excited to have Tom here.
All right. So before we go any further, we're going to do tequila time. Let's do our drink first.
Cheers.
So tequila time is about something old and something new that we do in business. And this isn't groundbreaking. I've covered this before, but when having new co-hosts and new guests on, I always like to see their reaction to it. You know, I come from the age of print. I used to be in printing. I was in printing for 13 years. Everything was done through print. As we've gotten into the more computer age, I like to say it like that, past 5-6 years, your advertising and marketing is going towards digital media. Big difference in what they're doing. I bring it up partially because I have a friend who's in the print business, number one, whose side hustle is working at the Paramount and got me into the founders room last night. So I want to give Tony...
See how it all ties together.
I wanted to give Tony a shout out.
Right.
I added him to it. But the reality of it is print is coming back. I'm seeing more and more companies doing direct marketing print now. They're saying it's effective. That could be the marketing people trying to jam it up, saying it's really effective.
It could be like fashion, where what's old is new.
Exactly.
Right? Comes back
Exactly.
around, so,
what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I use my job. I use emails, texts, and print. We use all of them. So I pretty much have a branding process. So I like to send relevant emails out to clients. Not just anything. People make that mistake where they over send emails and then nobody looks at them.
Yeah, that's with anything. Yeah, right.
And so I'll pick relevant items that people are interested in and send it out. Things that I'm interested in.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
Send that out to clients periodically. So emails, texts.
All right. We're going to include you in this swing of things. Best business decision of the week. I'll go to Mark first, give you a second to think about it. You first.
So Sem Holdings does a lot of consultative work for loss prevention. So we're just on the verge of entering into a partnership with a technology company. So it completes our offering.
Okay.
So this took some time. It's easy to blow up a deal, but we've taken our time to slow dance and whatnot. So now we're marching our way, and we should have partners at our next trade show where we have a technology offering as part of our overall loss prevention.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Mine, Reloadapalooza. I know we talked about that a few minutes ago, but the more people I can get in front of, and again, going to the one meeting in Philadelphia, I know more what to expect, what kind of people are there, and having the one-on-ones that I did with those people is now bringing me to this next place where I actually have things I can communicate a little bit better than at the first show, because I wasn't sure what kind of show it was, and make myself stand out a little bit more. What about you?
I'm going to say coming here today, and I'll tell you why. Because I met you two probably within the last 2 years, and I find both of you impressive.
Thanks.
And very like-minded, of people I feel that are charity-oriented, that want to help people. And I'm, kind of proud to be part of this today.
No, I appreciate that.
And I really appreciate it.
So we do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Love to hear about big wins. I'm a sales guy. It's all about the wins. All about the wins. And it could be numbers. It could be amount of numbers. I'm a numbers guy. For myself, the big win was career day. Because when I used to do career day, my kids were in Burr Road. So I was there for 9 years straight. 9 straight years. Each kid I did a career day for. So that's 9 career days. And what I always took...
So you have 9?
No, I had 3 kids, but 3 kids going through 3 grades. 3 times 3 is 9.
Very active.
I had 9 opportunities, and I did it. And I used to hand out my business card to every kid in the class. Every kid in the class. And if I told you I got at least 1 sale from every class, I would not be exaggerating.
Wow.
They would go home and tell mom and dad about the kid, the dad that came in at school and gave out this and that, and I got his card. I'd get 1 from each class. So going to the adults, one of the kids that was there wants to come on the podcast. One of the kids approached me afterwards, can I have your book? I'd really like to read it. Being inspiring, trying to help juniors and sophomores trying to figure out where's my career path. So that was my big win.
Wow.
What about you?
So, big win for the week or just a big win?
Most recent big win?
The biggest win that I've had is, in my life, I would say, is the Survivors Park, that we're doing in Comac, changing one of the local parks to be a park called Survivors Park for breast cancer survivors. And that's just something...
Raised all the money. I mean, you've done. It's amazing what you've done.
Sorry I didn't get to the ceremony. I did hear about it.
Okay, there'll be plenty more.
So Galuza.
Galuza was there.
He was there. He knew the cameras would be rolling.
Yeah, and right. That to me is the biggest win as far as my employment goes. Just consistency. That's the big. I really can't think of one because I'm pretty consistent in what I do.
Consistency is key. Yeah, that's
so.
Well, if you're cool, I just want to jump right in. So first off, and I'd say this before, as an introvert extrovert, which is kind of unusual.
Oxymoron.
Yeah, I have an appreciation because you're the reason I got involved in the chamber. Ed's the reason I get involved in a bunch of different things. It's really nice. My thing that's interesting for you, like a legit gentleman, nice guy, how do you do everything you do? I mean, there's so many volunteer organizations that you're in now. And I mean, what if the Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Chamber, Survivors Park, you did St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I'm on the foundation for the New York City St. Patrick's.
How many things are you in right now?
I'm on the foundation for the New York City St. Patrick's Day. I'm on the Comac Day advisory board also. I am in the Knights of Columbus.
Oh, jeez.
Is it night? Comac?
Comac, but I'm also good friends with Dick Sills too. That's 4. Kiwanis, I'm the president right now. Past president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm missing one. I'm a member of the Rotary.
Yeah, the Rotary.
Are you president of that too, or?
No, Galuza is.
Galuza.
How do you?
Actually, he's going to be. How do I do it?
How do you? Yeah, I mean, I'm being serious because I keep weird work hours. Yeah. I do a couple things. I'm a softball player, gym guy, whatnot.
I started playing softball too.
Oh, you did?
I did, which is challenging.
Yeah.
I played for years. And I started again.
So how do you balance it?
The key that first off, I want to say this is anything I try to do where I have my family, my wife's priority. So if that becomes an issue where that's being neglected, then something needs to stop. So I try to involve my family in things that I'm doing, to keep everybody happy. And that really helps with everything I do, including business, bringing your family in. When I bring my wife, we get the business, okay? How do I do it? Multitasking. I mean, I've always been a good multitasker. I know what I have to do. I keep good records.
I'm assuming you almost every night of the week, you probably got something going on.
Not always, but I have to prioritize. Like tonight there's something going on that overlaps, so I have to prioritize.
Right.
Just keep good records, and I try to do what I think is the more important thing.
So if we go back, how did, from when you started your career, financial planner?
Yeah.
And so how did...
Financial advisor.
A financial advisor. Sorry. I'm thinking CPA, and I'm thinking, section, what is the 63 and...
63. So I started in 1985.
Okay.
And when I was in college, I took an investment class, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then, I worked in a flea market from the time I was 12.
Really?
Which one?
Colmac, Long Island Arena.
There you
Yeah,
go.
of course, Colmac. That's where I do everything. So I worked in the Long Island Arena from the time I was 12 with my mom, and learned how to create a business.
So the Colmac Arena is that where
Target.
where Target was?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Whole
The
Foods
movie,
is there now.
Got it.
movie theater was
Okay.
there.
The movie
The
theater.
roller skating rink.
The rink.
I had
It's pre-day. Okay,
Drive-in.
it's interesting.
Yeah, those were the days. But so I worked there, and then after a while, my brother Andy took over the jewelry business, which is now 50 years in business.
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy's. It's my brother's business,
Yep.
and the family business. And then I decided to be, I wanted to be in the finance field. So one day I saw an ad in the paper, make $100,000.
Paper.
Yeah, the newspaper.
The one hand.
Well, I was actually working as an accountant when I first got out in accounts receivable.
Okay,
Yeah, and they were paying me, I think, $15,000 a year. This was 1985.
got it.
And I did everything I needed to do to bring in assets. As far as I was in the collections area,
It kind of makes sense when you go to
accounts
fundraising.
receivable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
And I went and had the nicest boss ever, and I said, "Listen, I could basically make more money doing anything." And took it, and he gave me a raise to $18,000, and I said, "Thank you." After a year, and I went and worked at Siemens Furniture.
Siemens.
That's right. And PC Richards, I worked at.
Who was your first big firm that you worked for?
Fidelity Investments, real firm. Fidelity
Oh, see,
Investments.
so-
I worked at several smaller
We don't need-
ones.
Yeah.
Ones of name and record.
Yeah.
Fidelity Investments for 9 years. I actually ended up being the top salesperson for like a 3, 4, 5 year period in the country.
So are you from Colmac originally?
Yes,
When
When
did
did you
go.
you graduate?
81 South.
Boo.
This Colmac's my second home now, so it's
both
interesting. I don't know any of this history.
The South.
But how did you go? Because the level of community involvement and charitable, how did that start? When did it start?
So about 3 years ago, I think it was about that. I think about 3 years ago. So my partner at where I work now,
Right.
okay, is the chairman of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Okay.
And he's a tremendous networker. So I watched him and I said, you know what? I'm going to start up a Colmac Community Business Networking Group. That was originally what the chamber was before we became the chamber. And I said, I'm going to call people I know in Colmac and just start a networking group amongst them. But I'm going to call established people, not people that are just joining like the basic networking groups, people that have their own networks. Only because I felt like every time I've been to one of these things, and I never was in a networking group, I always felt like I could give more than I could receive. And so this particular group, every one of them was already well established, had their own network, so it was kind of different. And that morphed into the Chamber of Commerce. So we decided to do that.
But so in your early years as just a young
before?
hustler coming up and whatnot, was that something that you always envisioned that you'd be involved in community?
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay.
I always like helping people. That was really what I'm all about. Just trying to do the right thing.
Got it.
That's how I live my life.
Because
Right.
I mean, that's where similar to is you too. The level of involvement, the amount of activities you do, is and
And
it's just,
it's funny because I was listening to the question to him, and I'm like, I could answer it for myself, and including your wife, including your kids.
Yeah.
My kids are all 17 and up now. All 5 of my kids have worked trade shows. They all got the ticket to work when they were 10 years old. So whether it was NARI, whether it was the Melville Chamber, they all got to come, take a day off from school and come to a trade show. And it wasn't to hang out and eat candy. It was, you're going to work a booth.
Right.
You're going to ask people for their business cards. You're going to be me when I'm walking around meeting the other people. That engagement has helped their business development, but it also helped keep not sacrificing my family for my
It
business.
also helps them as a person.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bring them to the food drive. Let them see the food pantry.
Oh, my daughters have all worked it for, my wife was a Girl Scout leader, and their community service project for about 3 or 4 years was the pantry, and working it on a Saturday morning for 4 hours when people come in to drop off before they built the bigger place, where there's a bigger shed now. There used to be...
I think a lot of what's not on my background there is all the other thing. I was a Cub Scout leader.
But that's all consistent. Like if you
everything. You're the same.
Basketball, baseball. I mean, I coached basketball forever at
St.
Matt's.
Oh, St. Pat's.
Comac South Little League. Fast pitch softball, college softball. Not college, but college age kids. So, and now everybody's grown up.
And so you're finding other things.
I have any grandchildren. So I have no one to coach.
I don't know if that's a hint to anybody, but
I feel you on the coaching part, because my 17-year-old stopped playing coach by dad about 5 years ago, and she dropped pretty much all sports like 2 years ago.
She was a star soccer player back.
She was phenomenally gifted, but bad coaches really poisoned her to wanting to succeed on the field. Loves being on the team. She's on the flag football team. Biggest cheerleader out there. Loves her teammates. Probably more talented than 80% of the girls on the team, but she has no desire to be out there.
They all find what they want to do, I think. You just got to keep guiding them.
But the point of it was being a good leader, being a good coach, being a good dad, being a good neighbor, being good.
I think having the kids work the trade show, I mean, that almost should be... I think you can't get better experience than being thrown right in and having to talk to people, because kids now are buried in their phone, and we've covered this. Just the ability to have a conversation and be somewhat personable almost separates you from 80% of the people out there right now.
Hence, my 17-year-old daughter is running this program at Comac High School, Senior Assassin.
The Comac Schmingus thing.
Yeah, she sees what you're doing. And that's why.
Oh, without a doubt. And she sees leadership as something, I'd rather be a leader than a follower. And it doesn't have to be on the sports field anymore. It could be academically, which she's on the president's list, and driving towards going to college. And I'm super proud of her. As much as I'm mad at her that she didn't show up last week.
So back to kind of your career focus. A lot of, as you started to evolve, you've kind of built your following on your back, per se, like you've on your brand, your consistency. How did it kind of get started when you were younger?
I guess because so my father passed away when I was 1. So I had that drive in me to be successful, and it just doesn't go away. The drive to be successful at whatever I do, but not hurt people. So
you can win gracefully.
Be successful, but everyone else's success is, like if your podcast, is a success, I'm happy. You know what I mean? I'm not, I feel like part, so looking for that, I like people to be, I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Well, so
I enjoy other people's success.
When you when you got to some of the bigger companies earlier in your career, from what I know of that space, you're kind of tasked with building your book, per se. Is that fair?
I just worked hard. I just worked.
So how do you, so what differentiates you from the next guy down the block?
When I speak to people, I talk to them as a person. I don't talk. I've been a financial advisor now almost 40 years. This year will be 40 years. Our team's best in state by Forbes. So, but when I speak to people, I speak to them like I'm speaking to you right now.
Right.
Try to explain to them. I care about what they say. I listen to them. They tell me what they want, and then I try to help them achieve that goal. That doesn't always work. Sometimes people are based on the numbers. What can you do for me? How much money did I make? That's not how it works. They want somebody that's going to be there.
So I'm thinking,
I don't know if I'm answering.
No, you are. But so it's interesting because when you deal with certain people and your field, there's a level of emotion, per se, especially over the last couple of weeks. And I'm sure you've probably gotten some of the calls of where probably a fair amount of what you're selling is almost couch therapy. You're almost like like, right? They say
We're in it for the long haul.
Right.
I'm a financial therapist.
Well,
Yeah.
fair.
You have to, so in this business, you have to take the emotion out. And I've learned to do that. This is actually my job is the easiest thing that I do, to tell you the truth. Only because I've been doing it so long. As long as you stick to your objectives, things will be okay.
I think you say
Remember
a key
what
point.
you got into it for.
Take the emotion out,
Yeah,
right? Because that's a very
Yeah,
and if we talk about like for younger folks, and I'll tell you, you get fired up, and
Yeah.
the worst thing I tell people is if you send that when you press send.
Don't.
When you write that email and you're all emotional,
If you have any doubts, press delete.
Right.
If you have any doubts.
if I could talk to my younger self, and I would talk to kids at career as they understand, when you're emotional, do nothing.
Don't make decisions when you're emotional.
Do nothing.
It's funny. So Shawshank, remember?
Oh yeah, sure.
When he says he's been institutionalized now.
Yeah.
That's how I feel now from working at all these large companies. I'm so used to, okay, you want to do that? Fine. My answer to it is, okay, I'll just make more money. So whenever they come on a new rule, cut the what they're paying, make it more difficult. I just work harder. You know?
Until you were here today, I'm like listening to your story, and we are mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
Because and the part of the reason writing the book was all the obstacles that were thrown in my way, all the potential opportunity to make money taken away, and then I just keep rolling on, and I keep finding my way to the top. You can't keep me down. I'm gonna find a way, and if it's not here, I'll move on to somewhere else. I've been with Pods 15 years. Obviously, I've found a way.
Yeah.
But your leadership, coaching. I coached all 5 of my children. Leadership. You're in the Cub Scouts. I run a networking group on Tuesday morning where it thrills me at the end of the breakfast when we do our thank yous, and I hear from 35 people in a room, all the people, all the engagement, all the thank yous, all the leads that were passed, all the closed deals that happened, just because I helped put this room together. And it's so, I could give a shit about what I'm getting.
Yeah.
It's not about what I'm getting. What I'm getting is this. This is my family. These are my people.
When I was running the training program at Merrill, that was kind of the way I felt. I changed that over now to the charities that I'm involved with. So the successes of the charities now is what's giving me that same satisfaction. It's kind of strange. And actually, I'm doing more business than I've ever done in my life, but the charities have given me more fulfillment.
And which charities are, so everyone's aware of?
Yeah.
So, I mean, right now, we're the 2 biggest issues in Comac, where I'm from, and,
I guess we're all from there.
We're all from
now.
Comac.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered, are teenage suicide or suicide, period. Seems to be a major problem. And drug
Comac?
abuse. Oh, yeah. And the reason I know this is from the organization. There's another organization, the Comac Community Alliance Group, which I put together.
CCA,
that's the new
okay.
one. From meeting with all the people that are the leaders of the different groups now, and having discussions with them, those seem to be the biggest issues that are out there right now. Cancer, suicide, drugs.
Well, what specific organizations are you working with or donating to?
I kind of, I have to think about that because there's so many different
Well, you
things.
did the park. What was that casted under? What was the name?
Well, we're working through St. Catherine's, and they have a foundation, and we're going to be putting donations through their foundation, and part of the money is going to their breast cancer charity.
And again, as a non-native who's now, Comac's now my
You're a
home,
native.
now
You've
I'm a
been there
native,
long enough.
long enough.
Yeah.
So how did you, why was that area, and where did it come up with?
My wife is a survivor.
Okay, so that makes
my
perfect
wife,
sense.
That
Yeah.
was something so my wife had breast cancer in, I think, 97. We got, both were remarried, okay, in 2002.
Okay.
Right, okay. And
23 years.
during that time, she's had, several surgeries, and the last one, when I was trying to come up with an idea for the Chamber of Commerce and something we could support in Comac, I looked around and said, okay, we have 9/11, we have veterans, which are all great. I love them all. What don't we have? What's different? What's Comac known for? Well,
Cancer.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? I thought that was the
High
best.
rate of
I
cancer.
thought that was a
breast cancer.
Really?
other
High
prostate.
rate.
Oh.
But what's it known for if you think about it? Long Island Arena, Comac Motor Inn. So I said to myself, yes.
Jungle Room, baby.
Everybody knows that
Everyone
one.
knows the Jungle Room.
Yeah. So I said, what's going to differentiate us? And so what about a park for breast cancer survivors? Googled it. There are none. There's none in New York. There's nothing like it. So hopefully when we get this thing started and created and moving along, it will be the first of many.
But I thought the park exists already. And
It is a park, but they're going to build a ribbon-shaped area in the park.
When
It's
is
a
that
huge
happening?
park. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
I'm trying because my networking group, we have charities come in and pitch us. I hate to say it like that.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah,
causes that
same
mean something to our
thing.
flock.
The area.
So no. The people in our group, they could bring in their fundraise, whatever charity they think
Sure.
is worthy, but they have to come in and present. And then we have a guy, my accountant, who will go to New York State official website to check, make sure it's a legitimate.
503B or whatever.
Yeah, make sure it's a legitimate charity. So I'm here trying to get an idea. What's the name of the charity?
It's not a 501c. It's basically what happens is that I've gotten corporate donations
Okay.
that are given to the town.
Do you plan on
money's there.
going legit to make it a legitimate?
I don't know. I don't know if it's something that, I'm hoping, what I was hoping for is to get the park built, get it operating. Phase 1 is put the ribbon down. Phase 2 would be benches, trees, and things like that. Once we get the link to the foundation for donations, okay, then we'll be able to do phase 2, which hopefully that's going to happen very soon. As far as that goes later on, the park was, I talked to survivors and asked them what they wanted in the park, not what I wanted. And once that gets going, I'm hoping to turn it over to several survivors so they can run it the way they want. So that's something that I'm looking
See,
to
it's
do
interesting
forever.
because it's just like you're talking to your,
Looking to give it to them.
it's just like you're talking to your client though,
Yeah.
right? Because it's really not about me. What do you guys want?
not about-
I have a great idea to add to it. A donation brick walk.
Oh, yeah, we're doing that. We're going to do that.
Where the
That's
community can buy bricks or
Can buy bricks
Yeah.
of someone who passed.
yeah.
past,
memory.
or originally it was like you come through it, you're a survivor, you're cleared. You come in, you ring the bell.
Oh, you don't
There's
have to go.
nothing
Yep,
like
yep,
it.
yeah.
So it's going to be a place, and honestly, I had no idea that it was going to turn out to the way this is going now for me with all the organizations and things. Since I came up with this, it's been like a whirlwind. Everybody wants me there. I guess
Who owns the park? The town still?
The town. So
And
it's up to
you
them.
have permission from them?
Oh yeah, they're in the paper. They're saying
I
they're
saw
gonna
it.
do
I was just,
supervisor.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get, Smithtown's not the easiest township to work with.
We're bringing in counter bids now. That's what's happening. Because so they wanted us X amount to build it,
Yeah.
and recently we found out that we could get other bids.
No, right.
Competitive
And
bids.
they sometimes need that to award anything.
I think it's going to be a lot less money to get it started, and also the website. So it's going to be through the Comac Community Alliance. Is going to be a way to donate through that particular website to go to the charity directly. And the Alliance encompasses 9 different non-for-profits: the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, the Knights of Columbus, the library, the school.
When you set up the alliance too.
I thought of it, yeah, yeah. And there's no 501c. It's just 9 type A's.
I understand.
It's a very interesting place to be.
But when you get in the corporate world and you're raising corporate funds, at some point you have to legitimize it. And
We'll see what happens.
I'm just, like I said, I can't donate to that on the,
I don't. It's
and
funny.
I want to
You
but
will be able to at some point.
and I'm hoping to.
As far as the long run goes, I don't see myself as the person doing this indefinitely.
Gotcha.
I see myself as the person that sets it up for survivors to do it, because I believe that my training in sales has enabled me to be in the position to get it done. I will get it done. End of story. It's going to happen.
Last 2 questions.
Yep,
Take the
yep.
second to last.
Okay. So we covered all this stuff. Covered all this stuff. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or so?
Oh God. Well,
Are you retired?
no. I'm not allowed to retire. My wife doesn't want me to retire. You know, she's like, "You're doing so well now. Why would we?"
No, I'm
You're at your peak
if
power.
you have,
Stop the gravy train.
we have to figure out all these other charities now that keep you
I
interested.
see myself like, you know, I could be in a leader's role at some of the organizations that I'm in a part of, and continue to work with charities and help people. You know, things like that. I just, you know, I don't need to be the leader. Also, like at the Rotary or the Knights of Columbus, I'm just a member who helps out and do what I can. That's it.
No political interest or anything like that?
Well, we'll see if somebody asks me. My wife says no. And so does Galuza. Galuza says no. I take things too personally, he said.
You know what?
That's what we worked on, me and Chris.
He is such a diplomatic person. Like I said, he's my vice president in my networking group called Networking for Charity. That's the name of it. And he's just he's got wisdom, he's got knowledge, he's got composure. He would be perfect for politics. He really would.
He could be, yeah, he would be. You know, he's a person that everybody wants to be
around
in a leadership role. He definitely is. He brings in people, and I've learned a lot from him about this particular thing. I've also learned a tremendous amount from my partner Sean, who runs the parade, who is kind of advises me on things I'm not sure of.
Well, you haven't gotten too old that you can't take advice from your peers, which is a big thing. People our age, because you're only a year older than me, can't have other people actually. They can't see to letting other people inspire them or acknowledge them.
You're absolutely right. You really need to, like, if someone could do it better than me, why wouldn't I do it that way? I'm not selfish that
right
way.
on. Right, yeah. You hit the nail on the head with that one.
Why would I do it that way?
The one thing I got from my dad was a work ethic and a wise-ass remark he always made to me, because he was very lazy. He said, work smarter, not harder. You know, it's because he was always looking for the shortcut, because he wasn't really into physical activity, or everything was a corner cut with him. Work smarter, not harder. I'm like, sometimes you have to actually work harder. Sometimes you actually do.
Working harder and working effectively.
Right.
You want to work effectively, you know, time management.
Yep, yeah. Time management's key.
That to me is the key. Organizational skills.
So I had a failure last week in time management. I don't usually let that happen. I overbooked 2 appointments while I was at the car place, and I missed a one-on-one with someone who I had taken great lengths to set this meeting up. Fucked that up. Totally blew it. And missed my team appointment to go watch my daughter play football. I forgot. I left my work phone home. So like twice in one day, my planning just went to shit. And I'm like, got to back off. I can't have so many things on the calendar for each day. I got to spread it out more. I just can't. And I already had 2 conference calls and 1 one-on-one. Where the hell am I fitting in all this stuff? Anyway. Sorry to bore you with that.
Well, good.
That's okay. I've been there.
Last question. It just shows that even as organized and time, I screw up sometimes too. It happens.
Everybody does. And you know what?
Acknowledge it.
Tell my assistant and also, you know, my daughter, anyone who's in the business too. You're responsible for anything that happens, and it's your job to make sure it gets fixed. But then, as far as mistakes go, everybody makes mistakes. It's not our job to blame somebody. It's our job just to fix the mistake and move on.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
All right. Last question. I need it lasered because we're running out of time.
Go ahead.
You can have dinner with anyone, past or present.
Paul McCartney.
That was quick.
That was
That was quick.
Good.
I already know that one.
That's a great answer.
Can you hook me up with that?
No, I can't. Mine was Jesus. Just.
Yeah,
Just an
you're
interesting.
probably right. I'd have to go with that.
But nah, your response
one or the other.
was part on. Listen, look into the camera. Tell us how we could reach out to you, how we could help you. Your name, your number, your email address.
Okay. Anybody needs to call me, 631-374-4034.
Say your name again.
It's Tom Morrissey. Listen, if you think you could help, if you're watching this and you think you want to be part of something that you could help or help me, we appreciate that. And just give me a call. That's my personal cell.
Mark, how can we reach you?
Mark Simpson, SEM Holdings. We do outsourced loss prevention. We are all over the place nationally. Please feel free to give me a shout, 917-414-4027.
And if your team is going to do a trade show and you want to tune your people up to get the most ROI from that trade show, let me come into your office, fire up the troops, give them some ideas on what they should be planning, like Mark is right now for a trade show 6 weeks from now. That's right, planning way ahead. So I'm Eddie Podge. You can get me at eddiepods@gmail.com or 626 423. No. 626. Forget it. Forget it.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.